Hello. Good morning, everyone. How are you? I decided to use StreamYard today because I'm just testing something out. I got several comments about not getting notified, and I don't know if that is because I've fallen out of the algorithm because I didn't go live for quite some time, or because I switched streaming services. I don't know. So I'm just trying this out to see what happens. So we'll find out. Um, how is everybody? I hope you all had a great evening last night. I thought that live about Susan Smith was it was a good live. It made me sad though to watch that video again, and that situation is so sad. Also, if oh, have you? Nope, not today. Huh. Hmm. Okay. Well, then also, okay, so let me just say, because we have a little time to just catch up a little bit, and I like to catch up with you guys. So, when I was trying to learn Streamlabs, I got super duper frustrated, and like to the point where my eyes were starting to have some type of fluid leaking from them, and that never happens to me. So my husband was like, just pay for StreamYard. So I did. And so now I feel like, at least for the rest of this month, like I've got to like at least try to use that. You know what I'm saying? So these two, so this stream, which is we're going to talk about what happened in the pretrial hearing yesterday, and then at 1:15, I have a stream scheduled. Leilani Simon's sentencing, the time was pushed back, so it'll be at my stream will start at 1:15, but the court stream will start at 1:30 if you're looking for that. Um, so there's that. Okay. I'm glad you guys are getting a notification. Okay, good. Because I'm getting both, and I don't know. It could be it could just be that it has nothing to do with anything other than I know sometimes you have to like sometimes unsubscribe, then resubscribe, and then set the notification to all, like after updates and whatnot. So maybe that's what it is. Who knows? But let's talk about what you guys came here to listen to. But before we do that, please, let's hear a word from our sponsor right quick. Okay?
And Kai, when you're on Jen Lou's channel, what do you do with the like button?
Smash, smash, smash! Yeah.
Yeah. So please do me a favor and give your girl a thumbs up on the stream if you want, or if you think I yakety yak too much about not the topic. I'm yakking about nothing and not the topic. Please give me a thumbs down if you want. All right. So let me, for those of you who are not familiar with this case, let me give you a background. Back in 2016, 8 members of the Rhoden family in Pike County, Ohio, were found murdered in their beds. The only survivors were 2 children. Hannah Rhoden's newborn and her brother's child. Okay. So after a very, very extensive investigation, I think it is the most expensive investigation in the state of Ohio's history, 4 members of the Wagner family were subsequently arrested in 2018. They are the mother, Angela Wagner, the father, Billy Wagner, and their two sons, Jake and George Wagner. Okay. Although if I were to give you the give it to you the way the boys were born, it really should be Angela and Billy and their two sons, George and Jake. Jake was the youngest son. Okay. And at the crux, at the motive, at the heart of the motive for the murders was the child that Hannah Rhoden and Jake Rhoden shared. Okay. They were concerned that some things had happened to Hannah when she was younger, and that, hang on just a second, and that as a result, Hannah might let the same thing that happened to her. Hannah was apparently, allegedly molested by a family friend when she was younger. And Angela, this was something that Angela Wagner was incredibly fixated on. Okay. It, and when I don't use that term loosely or lightly, it consumed her. It was a constant issue. It was a constant thought. It was a constant worry. It was a constant concern for her. Okay. And so rather than go through the courts and get custody, Angela and her son Jake and her older son George decided that all of the members of the Rhoden family needed to go. Now, 3 of the homes in the Rhoden family were all on one property. The 4th home was, I think, some few miles down the road, maybe 1 or 2 miles down the road. And Angela was also, not only was she fixated and obsessed and consumed by Hannah being an unfit mom to her granddaughter, she was an incredibly controlling woman. She ruled the Wagner household with an iron fist. Oh, thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate that, babe. If you are the recipient of the membership that Jennifer gifted, please be sure to thank you. So she ruled that house with an iron fist and wanted to control everything. And when George married his first wife, Tabitha, the dynamics that existed between George and Tabitha were that Angela ran their marriage. They lived in her home. When Angela had a child, she controlled that child. She controlled the raising of the child. It was a nightmare for Tabitha, to be clear. There was, apparently George was abusive to her physically and mentally. Angela was abusive to her mentally. It was a nightmare situation for Tabitha. And when Jake and Hannah got together, the situation was very similar. At one point, Hannah lived in the home with Jake, George, Tabitha, Angela, and Billy. And pretty much it was the same scenario. Angela wanted to be the mother to her grandchildren, not the grandmother. She wanted to take the role of the mother. And Hannah was very, very strong-willed, and she was like, bruh, no. And she dipped. She took her child and she got out. And then she got into another relationship and she got pregnant again. And so, anyway, the Wagner family, after they committed this crime in 2016, packed up their whole everything and took Hannah's and Jake's daughter, and they moved to Alaska, where Jake got into another relationship and remarried. And then they were ended up all being arrested in 2018 and charged with the murders. It was a huge conspiracy. So in the interim, Angela Wagner and Jake Wagner took plea deals. Now, their plea deals were contingent on them testifying against their remaining family members, being George Wagner and Billy Wagner. George Wagner is actually George Washington Wagner IV. Billy Wagner's government name is George Washington Wagner III, but everybody calls him Billy. Okay. So it was contingent upon them taking the stand, testifying against George and Billy truthfully, and then they would the state would remove the death penalty as from the table as a possible sentence for Billy and for George. George was tried in 2022. I covered that trial on my channel. So if you want to go back and watch his trial, it's all there. Okay. And Billy Wagner is the last Wagner to be on trial. Okay. To be tried for these crimes. Now, in the interim of that, the original trial judge, the judge that oversaw the guilty plea entered by Angela and Jake, has since retired and a new judge has taken over. Billy Wagner was scheduled to go to trial in January of 2025. So next January. Okay. And there's been a number of pretrial motions that have gone on, one of which is a change of venue, which is what was really supposed to be heard yesterday. That was what was expected yesterday. That is not what happened yesterday. And Nature Rocks, thank you so much for being a member for 19 months. I appreciate that very much. Thank you for supporting me and supporting the channel. Thank you very much. And thank you all for being here again. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So there was a pretrial hearing held yesterday, and that is what we're going to discuss today. Let me just get over to the tubes and show that to you guys, because we're not going to listen to all of it. The part that I want you guys to hear, and that is really the point. Hold on a second. Let me find it. Here it is. Just a minute. It's way back here, I feel like. Okay. So essentially, that is what we were expecting to hear yesterday, was that, whether or not Billy Wagner's change of venue is going to be granted. And then what ended up happening is there became a discussion between the judge, the defense, and the state respective to plea deals. Okay. So the issue is yes, Angela and Jake took a plea deal. They pled guilty. However, they haven't actually been sentenced yet. And the reason they haven't been sentenced yet is because, again, their plea deal hinges on their testimony in George's, who they did testify in George's trial, and Billy's trial, which has not occurred yet. Okay. Also, something that's interesting to note, when George was on trial, okay, the judge gave each and every witness an option when they testified. They could opt to be both audio and video recorded, right? Shown, streamed, because it was streamed, or they could opt for it to be audio only, or they could opt out of video and audio entirely, which is what Jake Wagner did. And I can tell you, I remember that day I was so angry, and so was the chat, that was allowed. And so were the people watching the stream. Like, I can't remember if I streamed Court TV or Law and Crime, but it doesn't matter because that chat was livid as well. None of us thought that Jake deserved that type of option, that he had pled guilty. That's that, right? He said he did it, and that it was only a technicality that was keeping him from being sentenced. And we felt like his testimony should have been heard. Okay. But it wasn't. And the reason that his attorney said the reason that he didn't want Jake's testimony to be recorded in any capacity was that he was in jail awaiting, all of the full outcome of both of the trials, right? And that it put his client in danger because, essentially he's a snitch. Well, I disagree, and I couldn't disagree more, because Jake had been awaiting trial since, or had been, in jail since 2018. Okay. This trial of George Wagner took place in 2022. I'm not that great at math, but it's simple. Well, I am good at math. I can't do geometry, but that's 4 years. At the end of the day, everybody in the jail already knew that Jake was a snitch, and they'd known for 4 years. I just thought it was ridiculous. Okay. So let me share the screen so we can get to what we're supposed to be talking about. All right. And I'm sorry, but closed captions are not available on this particular stream. Okay. So let's get into it. I'm going to go back to the 18-minute mark. We'll start there. All right.
Negotiations with regard to pleas. I'm not suggesting anybody should plea Mr. Wagner, but there's a legal duty that if there's offers made by the state, that they be communicated to you. So I always, you'll hear me do this again, ask the lawyers if they've had negotiations. If there were negotiations, have they been communicated to you? Because hindsight is 20/20, and everybody wants the deal after it left. Once the horse leaves the barn, they want to ride it. It's too late. So I'm going to ask the state if they've made any plea offers. Just go yes or no.
Maybe.
If you can. Yes. You want to own this?
It may be more
go with it.
Clear. Your Honor, it's been given to us that the government is always willing to listen to a potential plea, but we would have to bring that plea to them. The government has engaged us in different concepts of different possibilities, but it had to be firm from us to them before they would ever go to the victim's family to determine that. We've advised that of our client and putting a little bit more legwork into that lately, but that's where it is. So there is no specific offer, but they are open to suggestions, but the suggestions, so to speak, have to be firm, or at least to get them to go.
Just so you know, the reason the camera panned over here is these are members of the Rhoden family. They're the remaining members of the Rhoden. I mean, not all of them, but they've been, they attended every pretrial for both Jake and Angela. When Jake and Angela took the plea deal, they were there. When George Wagner was on trial, they were there every single day. Hey, Allie, I'm glad to see you, babe. I hope you're feeling better. All right, here we go.
To the victim's family. I think that's kind of captured the negotiations back and forth so far.
Is that fair?
I think that's fair, yes.
We've talked about flat time, we've talked about other things, we've talked about different concepts, comparing and contrasting. And then each time we give those concepts to a client, he sometimes is very frustrated with us. So, but we believe that that's our ethical duty to continue to do that, regardless of.
Well, 100%. That's why I'm going to make sure that your ethical duty is covered on the record, so you don't have to try to fish through otherwise confidential files and decide whether you can disclose, because the answer is yes, but you got to be in a forum you don't want to be in. So we're not going to go there.
Understood.
That's for your benefit and your clients.
Okay, also, I should mention, because I forgot about this, there was another family member charged, Frederica Newscomb, I think is how you say her last name. She is Angela Wagner's mother, and she forged documents pertaining to custody of Hannah and Jake's daughter. And so she also pled and took a plea deal. Now, what the plea deal does for Jake and Angela is essentially they're going to face life in prison. That's Jake's. It's been a minute since I've looked, and I was working on a video, so now, which I should have looked this up. But while we're playing this, I'll look it up to see what Angela Wagner's exact plea deal is, what she got. I want to say that hers is the same, life without the possibility of parole, but let me just double check to make sure. Also, let me just let you know, this is as calm as this is going to be. Okay, this starts out fairly innocuous with the judge asking what seems to be a fairly innocuous routine question. Have there been plea deal negotiations? Have you guys even tried?
Explain to me, if you could, in this evolving area of law, what you think your duty is to the victims. So this is for you folks back there, because I said the last go around that the state's attorneys don't represent you. That's not a new concept. You should have heard that like 100 times already. But I don't know what it means to the states. You get the benefit of hearing what I get to hear. So go, if you would.
Your Honor, I'm sure the court is familiar with the law surrounding victims' rights, and as a prosecutor, I am required to make sure they know hearings. I am required to consult with them anytime I'm going to resolve a case. I am not bound by their wishes, but
Okay, so let me tell you exactly what Jake and it's Frederica Rita Newcomb. Okay, what she is convicted of. Rita is convicted of obstructing official business. Jake Wagner is convicted of 8 counts of aggravated murder, felony conspiracy, aggravated burglary, unlawful possession of a dangerous ordinance, tampering with evidence, forgery, unauthorized use of property, interception of wire and oral communications, obstruction of justice, engaging in a pattern of corrupt activity, unlawful sexual conduct with a minor. Okay. Angela Wagner is convicted of conspiracy to commit aggravated murder, aggravated burglary, tampering with evidence, possession of firearms, forgery, obstructing justice, and engaging in a pattern of corrupt activity. Edward, his government name is Edward Jake Wagner. He's got life imprisonment, 8 consecutive terms. Angela Wagner has 30 years imprisonment, and George Washington Wagner IV got life imprisonment, 8 consecutive terms. So it's like 121 years. Okay. That's what they all got. So sorry. I want to be accurate about that. Was Mrs. M, was who there yesterday, babe? Let me see if I can figure out. Was who there yesterday?
I mean, as far as legal duties to them, those
Hold
are
on.
legal responsibilities.
Hold on. MK Lynn has addressed me. Let me address him. How rude of me. Jen Lou, good morning. I came in and didn't say hi. LOL. Hello, MK Lynn. Our little national treasure / disaster. All right, here we go.
To the victim's family is to make sure they know what's going on with the case and, yeah.
The reason I ask is Mr. Collins started it by saying he needed to give you a firm offer that you could take to the victims.
Yes.
Then it gets really murky depending on the prosecutor and the venue.
Frederica is the matriarch of the Rhoden family. Yes. If that's who, some of the names are jumbled in my brain at this moment, but I'm remembering now. And yes, I think that's right. That she was there yesterday. If that's who that is.
Whether the victims have some sort of implied understanding that they get to make the call. I didn't hear you say that.
Because they don't.
That they make the call.
Legally, they don't get to make the call. Every prosecutor, right, handles it differently. And I would say, I also factor in my belief on how the case should be resolved or not be resolved. But I certainly, especially in a case of this magnitude and the loss to this family, I certainly am going to strongly factor in their opinions before I would resolve the case.
See, that's what I thought. Hold on a minute.
It's different.
Okay. Let me just not look at chat for a minute and let me just organize my thoughts. Frederica is a Wagner. That's what I thought. No, she was not there yesterday. None of the, as far as I'm aware, none of the Wagners were there yesterday. Thank you, Dawn. I don't know where my brain is this morning. I have too many things in it, and all my compartments are too full up, and I'm jumbling things, and I apologize. Yes, Frederica is a Wagner, and no, she was not there that I know of yesterday. I didn't see her in the gallery.
Say, right?
My bad. I apologize.
Who's going to have to go through the trial and be on the witness stand, and if that person, that individual is willing to go through that, that's a strong testament that I should do it too. She doesn't want to, or if they don't want to resolve it with a lower offense. All to say, Your Honor, it's, as a prosecutor, I feel that I should factor in their opinion, absolutely. But they do not get to determine whether or not the case is resolved in any given fashion.
Thank you. So this is me yakking at all you folks. Understand that you have constitutional rights, as does the defendant. And in some respects,
let me see if I can
they
see her.
differ in their quality. So what the prosecutor just said in a nice sort of way, or what I think she just said, is she's going to communicate, try to meet your expectations. In the end, it's not your call, it's hers. Now I'm going to build on that a step further.
Before you do that, Your Honor, let me just interject briefly. I didn't see her. That doesn't mean she wasn't there. And because honestly, when he started this conversation, I wasn't paying attention at all to the gallery. I was paying attention and solely focused on him, on this part of it, what he was saying, because it just sort of seemed like it came out of left field. And I couldn't understand where he was going until he got there. I still don't understand why this happened. I'm still like baffled about this. I don't understand why. I mean, yes, asking about a plea, if there's been plea deals offered or talked about, right? Okay, that doesn't seem like that big of a deal. That's, fairly routine, pretty innocuous. That's no biggie. But when he turned to Georgia, is it Kaplan? And the attorney, the special prosecutor, I think it is Kaplan, when he turned to her and he said, "What is your responsibility to the victim's family?" I was like, where's he going with this? I didn't understand the point. Okay. We're about to get to the point. Here we go.
Because what the prosecutor might say to me, or what the defense lawyers might say to the judge, equally isn't the outcome of the case. Like, there's mutual recommendations that often come out of plea negotiations. And that's fine and that's appropriate. And my personal philosophy has been to not upset the card table when everybody deals the deck they want. So I think only one time in my life have I ever refused a plea agreement for what I thought was really good reason. That doesn't mean, however, that the lawyer should think I fell asleep and did exactly what they wanted. Maybe I'm talking to them and staring at you. Their recommendations are really important, but they aren't binding on the court. So they can both say the same thing and I can go a different route because judges are supposed to have their own independence. Now, that applies in this case. It's equally applicable in the companion cases where I'm staring at plea agreements that have mutual recommendations that are helpful.
There you
I'm
go,
just trying
y'all.
to
She
set the
wasn't there.
stage that nobody should assume anything moving forward. Mutual recommendations can be softened or hardened depending on how they play out. And I don't do this because I think I have the luxury. I say this because I have a duty to tell you of my independence, statutory requirement, constitutional requirement to consider everything that's said by anybody that's relevant and then follow the law.
Okay. So basically what the judge is saying here is, Canepa, what is wrong with me today, you guys? I think you all, listen, bless all of y'all for hanging in here with me at this point, because I don't know why I'm having such a struggle bus today. I can't remember anybody's names. I don't know what my deal is. Thank you, Deanna. I appreciate that. Angela Canepa. I don't know what's wrong with me today. I'm too many things in my brain. I don't know. I'm sorry. And I appreciate y'all hanging in there with me, even though I seem wholly unprepared for this. So embarrassing. Anyway, basically what the judge is saying is to the family and also to the defense and to the prosecutor is, I know y'all have worked out a deal with Angela and Jake, but they haven't been sentenced yet. So I am not under any obligation to uphold any prior arrangement or deal that you have worked out. And it's and he's saying, you know, it's my duty to let the family know. Okay? Brace yourselves.
Not do what my personal belief might be or my own fancy, but to follow the law. That's how we get there. Imperfect as it is, it's how we get there. So Ms. Canepa did a nice job. She set the stage for me to tell you she's going to work really hard. She'll try to represent your interest. And whenever it breaks down, if it breaks down, it's because at some point in time it's expected to, or it's appropriate that it does. But her legal duty is to tell you what the heck's going on. So when I started this whole affair out by talking to Mr. Wagner about cutting him out of the private discussions in chambers, I did the same to you folks, purposefully, and that's why we're not doing it that way today. We're going to get as much out in front of everybody, so there is this effective communication that takes the burden off the prosecutor to try to tell you what the heck happened. What else do you have? Anything from the defense, Mr. Hayes, Mr. Fallon?
No, yeah.
Ms. Canepa?
No, Your Honor.
Dare I ask Mr. O'Brien if you have anything to say?
Your Honor, I think you know more about the case. Actually, I have a benefit because the wiretaps that were done in this case were issued in Franklin County. So as the applicant on the wiretaps, I have familiarity with the case prior to being appointed. But based on what I know so far about the trial aspect, I don't have anything additional.
So here are the orders coming out of today's hearing. On representation by the state of Ohio, the death penalty specification is dismissed. The case proceeds without that specification. All of the defendants' pending motions are dismissed because most of them were focused upon the death penalty, and then also the lack of anybody prosecuting the motions. I tried to make a record a long time ago, tell me what you need to do. So for benefit of the record, it's not the judge didn't get his work done, as he wasn't given the work to do. So all your pending pretrial motions are gone. The death penalty specification is gone. The death penalty specification is gone. I'm not on the tip of the spear. I understand, Ms. Canepa, your dilemma. Only to compound the dilemma, will I now tell you that I'm going to proceed to sentencing in advance of trial on the other cases. So I'm proceeding to sentencing. I'm going to ask the court staff to have Angela Wagner, the other Wagner case, set for sentencing. I'm done waiting.
Okay,
Done.
Okay, let me tell you why Angela Canepa is about to, and I don't blame her, why she is about to lose her whole mind in this moment, right? Why she's so upset, and she's right to be upset, okay? If this judge does what he says he's going to do and sentences Jake and Angela, then they have no reason to testify. There's no leverage there. The leverage that the prosecutor had was removing the death penalty from George and Billy's trials. Okay? Without that, they have no leverage. And therefore, the Angela and Jake have no motive, no reason, there's no benefit to them to testify. And that's what he's talking about doing.
Obviously, you know that I will be objecting to every single thing that you just said, so.
Totally should. I didn't expect to make anybody happy.
Your Honor, you can't dismiss a motion. We have not dismissed the specifications. We have not made a motion to dismiss the specifications.
And if you think I have to have motions, nothing would ever get done. I'm not trying to run this case until I think it's necessary for the court to run the case not hear continued representations that we're going to get this thing negotiated when I'm now at 4 months waiting for something that was inevitable that has never happened. So in my impatience, I'm going to lead. And that's how I'm going to lead. And the nice thing is I told you this 3 weeks sooner than I maybe had to. So I don't expect you to agree. You can have all the objection you want.
To disagree is what you expect. Because if you sentence the defendants, what happens legally to the state's ability to enforce their plea agreements?
Tell me why this, I know the answer, so do you. And it's found in State versus Gilbert.
Okay.
We all know this.
And so you're going to knowingly do that on a case where those two admitted to plotting for 4 months to kill 8 individuals, most of them while they slept.
I know the facts of the case. Thank you for the transcript.
If you know the facts of the case, then why are you doing this? I don't understand this at all. And I'm so perturbed by all of this. Okay. The only reason this judge is even overseeing this case is because the former judge retired. And now this judge is in his spot and he is taking over this case. There was zero reason to do this. Zero reason. If it is because he is annoyed that it's taken this long to get Billy Wagner to trial and he wants to escalate things and hurry up and be done with it, and he's somehow punishing the state because they haven't reached some sort of plea agreement, I don't understand this at all. I mean, I understand what's happening. I just don't understand why the judge is doing this. This is absolute, total, complete, and utter poppycock, in my opinion.
The problem is twofold.
Well, we're not going to trial on January 3rd then, obviously.
No, you have this.
You can't dismiss suspects without a motion by the state. When there is more than sufficient evidence to support a death penalty specification in this case, because we have got the testimony, sworn testimony of his 2 co-defendants that he participated in personally killed 3 people. So the court has no basis to do this, no legal basis to do it.
She's 100% correct. See, hold on a second. Megan, thank you so much. Megan says, thank you for live streaming this. I just subscribed to your channel. I appreciate that. I started off a little bumpy, but all the synapses, all the things are coming together in the brain and working well, finally. See, this is the other thing. This is where becomes an issue. Jake and Angela Wagner are on record in George Wagner's trial. They testified to not only their part in planning and carrying out the murders of the Rhoden family, okay, but they testified to everybody else's part too. They testified to what Billy did. Billy is the one that called I just spoke too soon. Billy is the one that called Hannah's dad. What is wrong with me? It will come to me. Don't tell me. Hold on a minute. Okay. Chris Rhoden Sr. He's the one that called Chris on the phone and lured him out of his home. Okay. He made a phone call. Now the details of that call escape me, but essentially when he answered the door, Billy, George, and Jake ambushed him, pushing him. They started fire. Okay. Billy went to the door. Jake and George were hidden and were supposed to execute Chris in the doorway. Okay, Chris Sr. Shots were fired. One of the guns jammed, and essentially they missed. Okay, so then Billy had to take over. He was armed as well, and he forced his way, pushing Chris Rhoden back into the home, where he then shot and killed Chris Rhoden Sr. Okay, but they all tested, but Angela and Jake particularly, because Angela was not there on the day. She was not at any of the murder scenes. Okay, she was back at the home with everybody's phones, trying to create some sort of BS alibi. Okay. Aw, Nay, thank you so much, babe. If you guys, Nay gifted 5 memberships. If you guys got one of the memberships that Nay gifted, please be sure and thank her. Thank you, babe. I appreciate that so much. Thank you for supporting me and supporting the channel. Appreciate that. Also, while I'm thinking of it, will one of the mods pretty please drop Nay D's link to her music melts? Because if you're looking for Christmas gifts, stocking stuffers, or like somebody that, you know, when you're at the office or your work, whatever, and you have to have one of the Christmas parties and you all draw names and you don't know this person, Nay D is where you want to go, because everybody likes a good smelling home. All right. So when Jake testified, he testified to what each and every single person did, including himself, that day, who they killed, how they were killed, all of those things. Okay. And so she's right. There's more than enough evidence to keep the death penalty on the table. Okay. Because Jake has already testified to his, George's, and Billy's roles in it. Okay. And it's also the leverage that the state is using to get Angela and Jake to testify. If they testify in both trials, which they've already testified in one, and they testify truthfully, then the death penalty was removed from the table for George and for Billy. Okay. Which, by the way, that whole scenario, that plea deal is at the crux of George Washington Wagner IV's appeal and request for a new trial. He maintains that that because of the circumstances surrounding the plea deal, they had to get jurors that were death penalty qualified. Okay. And then after Jake and Angela testified, they then took the death penalty off of the table. And he says that his argument is that that prejudiced the jury and that they were going to convict him. So that's part of his appeal situation. All right, here we go.
Now, when I start talking, can we assume that you won't? I get that you're upset. You don't get that the court's been hearing representations for months about the quality of your case and the cooperation of the state's witnesses that I'm getting ready to sentence, and their truthfulness, and that they're all locked in the bag, ready to go, solid case. The fact that you'll have this plea agreement worked out was supposed to have been done shortly after September, shortly after October. Every time we've met, I've asked and heard you represent, we're getting there, we're getting there. It was like somebody played a record today.
Oh my gosh. Your Honor, respectfully, what is it that makes you think that she doesn't have this plea deal locked down? This is the same set of circumstances that were that the state had going into the trial of George Wagner. Okay. And yet Jake testified and Angela testified. So what is your bruh? Let me just keep going.
We're getting there. Well, I'm on the tip of the spear for everything that you're not doing. So I'm telling you, we're not going forward with trial on a death penalty specification when the defense isn't ready because the state's not ready. I'm not assigning fault. I'm saying the clock ran out. The clock ran out. You know how this could play. I know how this could play. The next move is yours. I get that. I get that. I'm just telling you that we're not going to pussyfoot around any longer with assurances of things that may never happen. Oh, by the way, if you don't get your agreement worked out, we're not going to trial anyway because there's 1,000 motions that got to be decided because everybody has said we don't need all those motions decided. So I struck their motions because of your representations that we're going to get there. I get it. I'm not saying anybody did anything wrong. I'm saying the clock ran out.
Yeah.
So, do whatever you got to do. Like, I'm not going to journalize this tomorrow. The staff will go scheduling with all these guaranteed good cooperative witnesses you have lined up. And I understand what Gilbert says.
Why are you trying to sabotage this case?
I'm not.
No, yes, you absolutely are. Sure,
Okay,
go
take the
ahead.
record.
If I may address
Go
the
ahead.
court by the state. Your Honor, I understand the court's frustration, but the state cannot unilaterally force a defendant to enter into an agreement when there's ongoing discussions. I think the court properly can and should set a deadline if the court wants to set a deadline, but I have never seen a death penalty spec dismissed absent the state making the request, the defense making the request. I understood at least what the court said. You have unilaterally decided because the clock ran out, you're going to dismiss death penalty specs, and I just don't think the court has that authority or has a sufficient record should an interlocutory appeal be taken to support it. And so I think I would ask that the court give the parties until, this is what day, I lose track of days, till Monday to present to the court a written agreement before the court would issue the kind of order that you just described.
You could have till Monday. And thank you for the courtesy of giving me yet another assurance. I'm working with you as much as it sounded like I wasn't. I've worked with the lawyers to this point, short as it is. I get it. Everybody's been here since 2018, right?
Not everybody.
I'm the last guy on the bench, right? Criminal Rule 48B gives the court authority to announce in open court on the record the reasons for its dismissal of a case. It's an extraordinary remedy if you want to call a death penalty specification dismissal, but it's not outside the rules. I have to explain why. If I let this go longer and we don't get to the agreement, clearly anything that happens at trial is going to be reversed for all of the work that didn't get done because everybody said it wasn't. So the reason's going to be the lack of adequate time to do what needs to get done for a death penalty case to go forward. Everybody knows in the room, everybody's ineffective if this case goes to trial in January as a death penalty case. Mr. O'Brien, welcome to the party. Monday's great. Call me Monday afternoon saying we're really, really close. But at some point in time, since I've heard that for 4 months, I probably won't care. So I'm telling you, we're out of time. I'm not taking sides except to say the system has to work. I'm not adverse to the state. I'm building this upon what I've heard for 4 months, that this isn't going to be a death penalty case. And now I have people slamming their hands on the table, figuratively, saying that what an outrageous thing the court just did. I didn't do it.
Yes, you did. Then who did it? I don't understand this at all, you guys. I don't get it. Okay. This has been a death penalty case since 2018. 2018.
I only responded to the facts that were represented to me. Even again today, the lawyers are doing a fine job. They're working on where they want to be going. I'm telling you, we're going to go where they say we're going to go. Nobody's walking this back, including the possibility, Ms. Canepa, you're just being suckered by the defense lawyers who are trying to play this for a second trial. With all due respect, I'm not worried about these lawyers. I'm worried about their appellate counsel, who I don't even know, who often throw everybody in the room under the bus.
Well, yeah, that's what an appellate attorney does. Now, okay, we've talked about this before, particularly during Sarah Boone's trial, right? Trial lawyers or trial judges do not like to have their rulings overturned on appeal. Okay, so when Judge Cranick made some of the rulings that he made during Sarah Boone's trial, and we are like, bro, what? He did it out of an abundance of caution so that they didn't create an appellate issue. That being said, how I should say it is a successful appellate issue, okay? Because obviously an appellate attorney is going to go through the record. They're going to go through all the things, right? And they're going to make their appeals based on the record, okay? That happens all the time. The appeals is not the issue. It's whether or not the appeal is successful. And I don't understand. So this judge is putting the cart all the way before the horse, right? He's now assuming that the trial is over. Billy Wagner over here is convicted, and he's preparing for an appeal for a trial that hasn't even happened yet. No
So if
Mako
you can
stuff.
work out a deal that makes me look like I didn't just overreach, you're welcome to. But Rule 48B is the duty of the court, the authority of the court to dismiss charges.
Based on merit.
I just gave it to you.
That's not merit.
No. You don't like the merits. So let's just agree to disagree. Let's just agree to disagree.
Prior to today, did the court give the state or the defendant a deadline on this agreement?
No.
Prior to today, did the court say, if you don't have a defendant's agreement, which is, again, an unorthodox thing, you're going to dismiss the death specifications unilaterally?
No.
Prior to today, was there any thought of sentencing the defendant? What is the court's reason for moving forward with sentencing on the defendant?
I don't owe anybody anything except to finish cases at my own discretion. I understand you don't want it that way. I understand that you would like to have witnesses.
Agreements were constructed before different courts who indicated they would abide by that. But now again, because you're the new judge in town, you come in here and you undo our prior agreements with different counsel that already
I
been in
didn't
the
do
court.
anything.
You're
I
telling
only
me
told you.
you know the ramifications of sentencing the co-defendants in this case.
Of course I do. Then why
Then
aren't
you're
you
undoing it.
ahead of
Prevent
me?
them from being witnesses for the state because they can say, I'm not testifying.
Exactly. Here's the thing. And this is why she's upset. And this is why she has a right to be upset. Okay. Do judges have to, if there's a plea agreement reached between the state and a defendant, is the judge obligated to sign off on that? No. Technically, they don't have to. It is their discretion. Okay. That's true. However, in this case, in this situation, okay, if he sentences Jake and Angela, they don't have to testify, okay? Could the state secure a conviction of Billy Wagner without Jake and Angela's testimony? Billy would be more difficult than George. And here's why. There are recorded conversations between Jake and Angela Wagner, George and Angela Wagner, and George and Jake Wagner. I don't think, I might be wrong, I can't remember, it's been a minute, it's been a couple of years since George's trial, but I don't think that they have the same level of evidence against Billy that they did against George. Okay. And oh, I'm so glad to see locals here, you guys, and people that have been following this. Thank you so much, Alicia. I appreciate that so much. I really want to give the Rhoden family as the victims. I feel like it's my obligation to tell their story accurately, and I feel awful that I bumbled at the beginning, but I'm coming back from that. So if I remember correctly, I don't think that they have as strong of evidence against Billy as they did against Angela, Jake, and George Wagner. A lot of the conversations that occurred after the murders really were between Angela, Jake, and George. Not so much Billy. And so I think that Angela Canepa's frustration is that they don't have as strong of a case against Billy if Jake and Angela Wagner don't testify. And she feels that she won't be able to get justice for the Rhoden family. I mean, look, I'm going to tell you guys, for those of you who haven't been following this case from the beginning, probably the most disturbing, the whole case is disturbing, but I think for me personally, one of the most disturbing details of the crime is the way that Hannah Rhoden's newborn baby was found. She was alive, but she was nursing. And Jake did that. He took the newborn. No, that's not right. It's Hannah Gillies' child that was taken out of the crib. Both Hannah Gillies' child and Hannah Rhoden's children were found in the beds with them. In fact, one of the spent shell casings was found in one of the cribs. But Jake testified to positioning the children after the fact.
You're the one that said you had them all packaged up and ready to go. Now, I don't
Under
think.
the agreements, Your Honor, that you are seeking to undermine, and you think
No.
this is funny? There were 8 people murdered in the middle of the night.
How about we agree that you've been telling me for months to look for something that may not ever happen? I'm telling you, we're not going to go forward with the trial when everybody in the room is going to be ineffective based upon your representations and the defense's reputations. Not like the state did anything wrong.
But the state
We
is
are
being
not.
punished for it.
You have this habit that's annoying. It's conversational talk. I get it. I understand completely how this puts you in an awkward spot.
Awkward?
So let's just agree to disagree. I'm telling you, we're going to get decisive. We're going to get done.
I think the court is demonstrating complete bias in this case.
Of course you would say that and I don't have any bias. No, I have a duty to get this case done.
Well, if I understand correctly, the court has given us till Monday to present this agreement that is yet to be produced, in which instance the court separating out the Gilbert issue the court still be sentencing if that agreement is presented, the co-defendants?
I don't think the public understands that we're actually supposed to put in a certain order in how things get done. But the public does perceive delay. The public does see the courts as an institution of glacial movement. Now, I'm not saying that's wrong.
Okay, let me explain something to you, Your Honor. Speaking as the public, okay? This case is an incredibly elaborate, complicated case. You have 8 members. Let's just not even do all that. All right. There are 8 people you have 8 victims. All right. You have 4 crime scenes. Okay. You have wiretaps. This was an incredibly long, expensive, complicated, but thorough investigation. It took a long time to make sure that the state had enough to dot all of the I's, cross all of the T's, and connect all of the dots between the 4 members of the Wagner family and the 8 members of the Rhoden family who were murdered in their beds. Okay? So this isn't like Sarah Boone, okay? Where, yeah, the public got annoyed. Hi, it's me. I'm the public. I was annoyed because Sarah was playing games. She wanted a defense from her attorneys that they didn't feel that they could ethically do. That's it. That's all. And over the course of 4 years, she had a total of 8, 9, if you count herself, attorneys that 4 of them conflicted out. So those don't count against her, but 4 court-appointed attorneys, 3 court-appointed attorneys, 1 attorney that started out as a private attorney, but then became, because Sarah's indigent, a public defender, paid by the public, I should say. Anyway, that's a very different scenario than what is occurring here. And I have 2 people in the chat right now who are Ohio residents, Megan and Alicia. Would you rather the case have taken a longer time? Yes, costing more money, but the right people were accused, tried, and convicted for the crime than for it to be incredibly expedient and cost less money, and maybe the convictions didn't get secured. That's the problem. Hey, Cement Shoes, good to see you, buddy. Thanks for being a member for 32 months. Yes, and I forgot about MK. MK is an Ohio resident too. MK Lynn, Holly, what say you all, my Ohioans? My Buckeyes, what y'all say? Would y'all rather it have gone slower, but be done correctly, take more time, but be done right, or go faster, cost less money, and people walk? All my Ohioans, all my Buckeyes, come on. I'm not even in Ohio, but I've been following this case. And for me, I would rather it be done right. This is a complicated case, Your Honor. And I'm not impressed with the cut of your jib, bruh.
A lot of intense work that has to get done to get cases to the trial and to the finish stage. I suspect everybody that's a
Look
victim
at
wants to have a
Angela.
chance
She's
to tell
done.
me the
She's like,
hurt,
let me
the
get my
pain, the
purse.
ramifications. And for years and years and years, they've had to wait. I suspect it'd be cathartic, healthy for them to be able to finally speak, but they have to wait too. So the day for waiting is done. I can revisit on any occasion any part of the case that's necessary. I haven't made my mind up on what anything should happen is. I told the victims I'm not bound by what the lawyers agree. never have been, no court is, unless the plea agreement encompasses a contractual understanding, which I don't think happened. So I'm not going to go making decisions today on what I'm going to do with regard to sentencing, but I am going to schedule sentencings in advance of this trial. And then if everybody works out something, I can rethink, as I'm supposed to, in real time, what's appropriate under the facts. Under the circumstances and facts today, there can't be any more time for promises. It's put up or shut up time. I'm not biased here. This cuts both ways.
What?
It puts everybody in an awkward spot.
How does it cut the defense? It doesn't. If since you know the facts of the case, you very sarcastically, which normally I enjoy sarcasm and shade, but not this. I didn't like yours. You thank the prosecutor for the transcript, but if you're familiar with this case, then you would understand that it didn't cut both ways. You cut the prosecution off at the knees. You rat fink. No me gusta.
But it's not about being happy. It's about being efficient and thorough and seeking finality, which somebody lost years ago because there's a lot of intense work to do. I get it. There's a process to go through.
I don't even understand.
But this can't keep going the way it's not going. So I appreciate it. Work on it. Nail it down if you can. I'm not interested in anybody getting sued for being ineffective or having ethics issues.
God.
That cuts both ways. I just put the defense in a bad spot, and she's arguing your case. Good luck if we try this case of the death penalty spec, because you're going to be screaming louder than she just was about the great injustice that just happened. So thanks to the lawyers, thanks to the court staff, the court reporter, we can go ahead and go off the record. Those will be the orders.
Wow. Wow, 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 wow. This is all I have for this judge. Give me just a second.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
I mean, I know that's harsh, and normally I have an incredible amount of respect for the judges in these cases. I have an incredible amount of respect for the justice system as a whole, including the defense, and what a burden and that a defense attorney takes on in many of these cases. Think about Leilani Simon, which her sentencing is going to be in a couple of hours. Her attorney is representing a baby killer. Mr. Tellini in Letitia Stauch's case, another one. They took an oath and they are to represent their client regardless of the circumstances and facts in the case to the best of their ability. That is what they took an oath to do, and they both did their jobs. Okay, even though we didn't always agree with the way that they did their jobs, not Mr. Tellini so much, but I didn't appreciate the wasn't 100% in love with the tone that Leilani's defense attorney used 98% of the time, but I respected the fact that he was doing his job. This judge, on the other hand, I don't understand any of this. I'm so infuriated, you guys. I can't even begin to explain to you, how annoyed I am with this. I'm over it. Like I've been waiting for a very, very long time for Billy Wagner to go to trial. Okay. Like, I even considered, but this is when my channel was, I was a much newer creator. My channel was much smaller and I didn't know like other creators. But I even thought about how can I get my pause on the transcript of Jake and Angela's testimony. I wanted it because I wanted to hear what they had to say. I mean, at the end of the day, the jury made their decision and I agree with their decision. George was guilty, guilty, guilty. He was all up in it. He was part of it. And at the end of the day, my opinion remains that George was not Angela's favorite. Jake was. And she didn't give a rat's fat kneecap, and she would have thrown George all the way under the bus if she could have. Okay, so cement shoes, what are you doing in the hospital? You don't have to tell me, but whatever the issue is, I hope you get to feeling better soon, buddy. So the death penalty would only come off of the table after Jake and Angela testified. This is what happened in George's trial too. So when they picked a jury, they had to get death penalty qualified jurors. They only removed the death penalty from the table after Jake and Angela testified, because that's what that was what their plea deal said. So Cement says, can an Ohio resident request a testimony transcript through FOIA? Yes. However, anybody can, really. Anybody from any, because there are Pretty Lies and Alibis when they got the transcript. Yes, anybody can request a court transcript through FOIA. They're just very, very expensive. So that's why I didn't, because it's like a crazy amount of money. But I'm so annoyed by this whole situation, and I am at an absolute loss from where we go from here. Megan says, can Angela go over this judge's head ruling? I actually don't know the answer to that question. Now, I know when the former judge ruled that Jake Wagner did not have to have his testimony recorded in any capacity, either video or audio, the press, the media, appealed that decision. They appealed that ruling. They were not successful, but they appealed it. I suppose in theory, any ruling that a judge makes can be appealed. I'm just not exactly sure how you would go for that, how you would go about that. I feel like, okay, so Cement Shoes asks how much. I'll say this. The first person or the first request is always the most. The second request and those preceding get at a discount. And I am thinking that the ballpark figure for his testimony was something like, it was crazy. I want to say like $10,000 or $20,000. I'll have to look it back up and get back to you, but it ain't cheap at all. So yeah, I'm not sure what recourse the state has in this situation. But this is just like, this was such a awful, awful blow to the state's case. Billy Wagner was going to be, the defendant that was the most difficult to prosecute without Angela and Jake's testimony. And I guess what the judge is saying is you should have to base your case on the actual evidence and not base it around two of the co-defendants testifying, which I disagree with, but whatever. I mean, they have enough to go forward to prosecute Billy, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they could get him on all of the charges that they got George and Jake on. And Lisa, thank you for becoming a member. I appreciate that. Thank you for supporting me and the channel. Thank you very much. Yes, Alicia, I was too. Alicia says, I was so mad that Jake and his mom didn't have to be on camera. I get the victims testifying, getting the choice, but not them. Yeah, exactly. And Tabitha, George's ex-wife, as nervous as she was, as scared as she was, as intimidated and bullied as she was by that family, to sit in that courtroom so close to George Wagner and testify, like, that was an incredible act of bravery. And we were all there cheering her on, right? And then Jake, coward ass. Thank you, Emily, for being a member for 14 months. I appreciate that, babe. Thank you for supporting me and the channel. I appreciate that so much. See, that's what I think too. Cement shoes, no courtesies whatsoever should have been extended to the perpetrators. None. And they pled. They pled. They were just, the only thing left was for them to be sentenced. Ugh. Anyway, all right, you guys, we got about an hour and a half between now, well, an hour and 15 minutes, give or take 31 minutes, I guess. I don't know, 15 plus 6, whatever that is, 21 minutes before the next stream. That is going to be the sentencing hearing of Leilani Simon. I hope you guys will all join me for that. I want to thank you all so much for being here, for putting up with my blunders at the beginning of the stream, being patient and hanging in there, knowing hoping I would get it together and having faith that I would. I appreciate that so much. But anyway, thank you guys for being here. Give me a thumbs up or thumbs down, whichever. And I hope to see you guys in a little bit for Leilani Simon's sentencing. You guys have a great, if I don't see you at the sentencing, I also have another live I want to do tonight. This is going to cover the Chloe Driver case. We're going to do a review, a recap, and listen to the state's expert psychiatrist or psychologist. I can't remember now. So their expert witness and what his assessment and evaluation results of Chloe Driver are. So, all right. Okay, lady. Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a great day, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.
Cause it's Friday, you ain't got no job, and you ain't got shit to do. Well, fuck you.
No malicious intent or effort was towards it.
No malicious.
Finish her!
2 minutes later.
We all do a little mad sometimes.
And you know this, man.